The world is full of incredible places, but for me, the most amazing places are the wild ones. They are tough, they are unforgiving, and they test everything you have. The Arctic is one of those places. It is a vast white desert of ice and snow at the very top of our planet. For months, I had dreamed of this journey. The idea of standing at the North Pole, a place so remote and so challenging, was a call I could not ignore. It is a place where nature is in complete control, and you are just a small visitor trying to survive its power. This journey would not be for the faint of heart. Preparing for an expedition like this is a huge task. It is not like packing for a holiday. Every single piece of equipment you bring could be the difference between life and death. We spent weeks planning every detail. We studied maps of the sea ice. We looked at weather patterns. We planned our food supplies very carefully. You need a lot of energy to survive in the cold, so high-calorie food is essential. We chose dried meats, nuts, and chocolate bars. Every item had a purpose. There was no room for luxury, only for survival. This is the ultimate test of planning and preparation. The team was small but strong. You need people you can trust with your life in these conditions. We were all experienced adventurers. We knew the risks. We knew the challenges that lay ahead of us. We talked about how we would handle emergencies. What would we do if someone fell through the ice? What if a blizzard trapped us for days? We had to have a plan for everything. In the wild, you must expect the unexpected. Trusting your team is just as important as trusting your gear. We were ready to face the Arctic together, as one unit. Our journey began in a small town on the edge of the Arctic Circle. The air was already crisp and cold. You could feel the wildness all around you. This was the last bit of civilization we would see for a long time. From here on, it was just us and the ice. We loaded our sleds, checked our gear one last time, and said our goodbyes. The feeling was a mix of excitement and fear. But that is what adventure is all about. It is about pushing your limits. It is about stepping into the unknown. The great white wilderness was waiting for us. Your clothing in the Arctic is your first line of defense. It is your personal shelter against the biting cold. We wore multiple layers. Each layer has a special job. The base layer, right next to your skin, is made of a material that wicks away sweat. Getting wet from sweat is very dangerous because it can freeze and lower your body temperature quickly. The middle layers are for insulation. We used thick fleece and down jackets. They trap your body heat and keep you warm. The final, outer layer is a shell. It has to be waterproof and windproof to protect you from the harsh Arctic weather. On our feet, we wore special insulated boots. These boots were huge, but they were essential. Your feet are one of the first parts of your body to get frostbite. The boots had thick liners and tough outer shells. We wore several pairs of thick wool socks. Keeping your feet dry and warm is a constant battle. At night, we would take the liners out of our boots to dry them. We also had to protect our hands and face. We wore thick mittens over thinner gloves. A balaclava covered our face, leaving only a small slit for our eyes. Goggles protected our eyes from the wind and the bright glare of the sun on the snow. Our sleds, or pulks, were our lifelines. They carried everything we needed to survive. Each sled was packed with about 120 pounds of gear. That includes our tent, sleeping bags, stove, fuel, food, and safety equipment. Pulling these heavy sleds across the snow and ice is incredibly hard work. It takes a huge amount of physical effort. We were attached to our sleds by a harness that went around our waist. Every step was a struggle, especially when going uphill or over rough ice. The sleds were our homes on our backs, our survival packs on runners. The equipment we carried was for more than just comfort, it was for survival. We had a special stove that could melt snow for drinking water. Staying hydrated is just as important in the cold as it is in the heat. We had a satellite phone for emergencies, our only link to the outside world. We carried a GPS to help us navigate, but we also had a map and compass as a backup. Technology can fail in the extreme cold. You must always have traditional skills to fall back on. Every piece of gear was chosen for its reliability and toughness. In the Arctic, your life depends on it. Setting off was an incredible moment. The town disappeared behind us very quickly. Soon, there was nothing but white in every direction. The landscape was vast and empty. It was beautiful and intimidating at the same time. The silence was the first thing I noticed. It was a deep, profound silence, broken only by the crunch of our boots on the snow and the sound of our breathing. You feel very small in a place like this. It makes you realize how powerful nature is. The world we know, with its cities and noise, felt a million miles away. The first few days were about finding our rhythm. We had to get used to the routine of Arctic travel. We would wake up early, often before the sun was fully up. Melting snow for water and preparing a hot breakfast was the first task. Then, we would pack up our camp, load the sleds, and start walking. We would travel for about an hour, then take a short break for a warm drink and a snack. Then we would walk for another hour. This pattern continued all day. It was a slow, steady pace. You cannot rush in the Arctic. You have to conserve your energy for the long journey ahead. Walking on snow is hard work. Sometimes the snow was firm and easy to walk on. Other times, it was soft and deep. With every step, we would sink down to our knees. Pulling the heavy sleds through this deep snow was exhausting. It felt like walking through thick mud. We had to work together, sometimes helping each other pull our sleds over difficult patches. Our skis helped us glide over the surface, but even that was tough with the heavy loads. Our muscles ached and our lungs burned from the cold air, but we pushed on, step by step, mile after mile. As the sun began to set, the sky would turn amazing colors. Pinks, oranges, and purples would paint the clouds. It was a beautiful reward after a hard day's work. Finding a good spot to camp was crucial. We needed a flat area, sheltered from the wind if possible. Setting up the tent with cold, tired hands was a challenge. Once inside, we would light the stove. The warmth and the sound of the stove were so comforting. We would cook our evening meal, talk about the day, and plan for the next. Then, we would crawl into our warm sleeping bags, ready for a few hours of rest before doing it all again. Traveling in the Arctic is not just about walking on snow. Much of our journey was across the frozen Arctic Ocean. This is sea ice. It is a constantly moving, shifting, and changing surface. It is an incredible and dangerous environment. The ice can be thick and stable in some places, providing a solid path. But in other places, it can be thin and fragile. You have to learn to read the ice. The color and texture can tell you a lot about its thickness and strength. Bluish ice is usually older and stronger. Gray or dark ice is young and thin. You must avoid it at all costs. We encountered massive pressure ridges. These are like mountain ranges made of ice. They are formed when huge plates of sea ice crash into each other. The force of the collision pushes the ice upwards, creating giant, jagged walls. Sometimes these ridges were over 30 feet high. We could not go around them because they stretched for miles, so we had to find a way over them. This was some of the hardest work of the entire expedition. We had to use ice axes and ropes. We would cut steps into the ice and pull our sleds up and over, one by one. It was slow, difficult, and dangerous work. Another major challenge was open water. These are cracks in the ice, called leads. Sometimes they are narrow and you can jump over them. Other times they are wide channels of freezing black water. They can appear suddenly as the ice shifts. We had to be extremely careful. To cross wider leads, we sometimes had to use our sleds as makeshift rafts, or we would have to walk for miles along the edge to find a place where the ice was frozen over. We always traveled roped together in these areas. If one person fell in, the others could pull them out quickly. Falling into that water is a life-threatening situation. Despite the dangers, the sea ice was a place of stunning beauty. The shapes and forms of the ice were like natural sculptures. There were massive icebergs frozen into the sea ice, like giant white castles. The light would reflect off the ice in incredible ways, creating a sparkling, magical world. Sometimes, you could hear the ice groaning and creaking around you. It was a powerful reminder that we were walking on a living, moving ocean. It was a privilege to travel across such a dynamic and wild landscape, a place that very few people ever get to see. The polar bear is the king of the Arctic. It is a powerful and, honestly, just a magnificent animal. Seeing one in the wild is an unforgettable experience. We were always on the lookout. We knew we were in their territory. One afternoon, we saw one in the distance. It was a large male, walking slowly along a pressure ridge. Its white coat blended in perfectly with the snow and ice. It was a ghost of the Arctic. We stopped immediately and watched it from a safe distance through our binoculars. It was a humbling sight. This was its home, and we were just visitors. Polar bears are apex predators. They are perfectly adapted to this harsh environment. They have a thick layer of blubber and a dense coat to keep them warm. Their large paws act like snowshoes, spreading their weight so they can walk on thin ice. They have an incredible sense of smell and can detect a seal, their main food, from almost 20 miles away. We knew that a polar bear could be curious or see us as a potential source of food. We had to be extremely careful not to attract them to our camp. All our food was sealed in special containers. Safety was our top priority. We set up a tripwire alarm system around our tent every night. It was a simple system of wires connected to a loud flare. If a bear came into our camp and touched the wire, it would set off the flare. This would hopefully scare the bear away and wake us up. We also took turns on watch, especially if we knew there were bears in the area. We carried a special bear deterrent spray and a firearm, but these were for last resort emergencies only. The goal was to avoid any confrontation. We respected the bears and their territory. We had a few more encounters during our journey. Most of the time, the bears would just observe us from a distance and then move on. They are solitary animals, roaming the vast ice fields in search of food. One time, a mother and her 2 small cubs passed by our route. They were a beautiful family, the cubs playing in the snow while the mother kept a watchful eye. It was a reminder that even in this harsh and unforgiving place, life finds a way. Seeing these incredible animals thriving in their natural habitat was honestly one of the greatest rewards of the entire adventure. While the polar bear is the king, the Arctic is home to other amazing survivors. One of the most charming is the Arctic fox. We saw several of them during our trip. They are clever and resourceful little animals. In the winter, their fur is pure white. This provides perfect camouflage in the snow. It makes them very difficult to spot. We would often only see them when they moved, a quick flash of white against the white landscape. They are often seen following polar bears, hoping to scavenge on the leftovers from a kill. Arctic foxes are incredibly tough. They can survive in temperatures as low as -50 degrees Celsius. They have thick fur, even on the pads of their feet, which helps them walk on the cold snow. They have a keen sense of hearing and can locate small animals, like lemmings, moving under the snow. We watched one fox standing perfectly still, its head cocked to one side, listening. Then suddenly, it leaped high into the air and dived headfirst into the snow to catch its prey. It was an amazing display of hunting skill and adaptation to this extreme world. We also saw many seals. The frozen Arctic Ocean is their home. They are the main source of food for polar bears. We would often see their dark heads popping up out of small breathing holes in the ice. They would take a quick breath of air before disappearing back into the frigid water below. Sometimes we would see them hauled out on the ice, resting near their breathing holes. They looked like large, dark slugs against the white snow. They were very wary and would quickly slide back into the safety of the water if we got too close. Life in the Arctic is a complex web. The seals eat fish and other marine life. The polar bears hunt the seals. The Arctic foxes follow the bears for scraps. Every animal has its place in this fragile ecosystem. Seeing these creatures was a constant reminder of the incredible power of evolution. Each one is perfectly designed to survive in one of the toughest environments on Earth. From the mighty polar bear to the small, clever fox, they are all true masters of survival. It was an honor to share their world for a short time. The weather in the Arctic is unpredictable and can be extremely dangerous. The biggest threat we faced was the blizzard. These storms can appear with very little warning. The sky can go from clear blue to a swirling mass of gray clouds in less than an hour. Then the wind starts to howl. It picks up the loose snow from the ground and throws it through the air. Visibility drops to almost zero. You cannot see your own feet, let alone the person next to you. It is what we call a whiteout. When a blizzard hit, We had no choice but to stop. Continuing to travel would be suicide. You could easily get lost or walk into a dangerous area, like a crack in the ice. The first thing we had to do was build a snow wall. We used our snow shovels to cut blocks of hard-packed snow and build a wall around our tent site. This wall would help protect the tent from the full force of the wind. The wind in these storms can be strong enough to rip a tent apart. The snow wall was a vital defensive barrier against the storm's fury. Once the wall was built, we would get the tent up as quickly as possible and crawl inside. Being trapped in a tent during a blizzard is a test of patience and mental strength. The sound of the wind is deafening. It is a constant, loud roar. The tent shakes and flaps violently. You worry that it might tear at any moment. We would be confined to our sleeping bags inside the small tent for days at a time. We would melt snow for drinks, eat our cold rations, and try to rest. There is nothing else you can do but wait for the storm to pass. These storms were a powerful reminder of how small and vulnerable we were. Nature was in charge. We had to respect its power. After a long storm, emerging from the tent was like being born into a new world. The wind would be gone, and a deep silence would return. The landscape would be completely changed. The storm would have sculpted new snowdrifts and covered our tracks. It was a fresh start. These experiences, while frightening, taught us a deep respect for the raw power of the Arctic and the importance of being prepared for the worst. Navigation in the Arctic is a constant challenge. When the landscape is just an endless expanse of white snow and ice, it is very easy to get disoriented. There are very few landmarks to guide you. Everything looks the same. On clear days, we could use the sun to help us find our direction, but the sun in the Arctic circles low in the sky, and its position can be confusing. Our primary tool for navigation was the GPS. It told us our exact position and helped us stay on our planned route towards the North Pole. However, we could not rely on the GPS alone. Technology can fail in the extreme cold. Batteries can die very quickly. Electronic devices can freeze and stop working. That is why we always carried a map and a compass. These are old-fashioned tools, but they are reliable. They do not need batteries. But using a compass near the North Pole is tricky. The magnetic North Pole, which a compass points to, is not in the same place as the geographic North Pole, our destination. We had to constantly adjust our bearings to account for this difference. The most difficult times for navigation were during whiteouts. This can happen during a blizzard or even on a cloudy day with flat light. When the sky is the same white color as the snow, you lose all sense of depth and perspective. You cannot tell where the sky ends and the ground begins. It feels like you are walking inside a giant white ball. This is incredibly disorienting. You can easily start walking in circles without realizing it. During these times, we had to rely completely on our compass, taking a bearing and walking in a straight line for a set number of paces. There were moments when we felt lost. We would check the GPS and the compass, and the readings would seem confusing. The featureless landscape played tricks on our minds. In these moments, it was important to stay calm and trust our training. We would stop, have a warm drink, and reevaluate our position. We would work together, discussing the map and our route. Overcoming these challenges was a team effort. It strengthened our bond and our resolve. Finding our way through this vast white wilderness was a victory in itself, a testament to skill, teamwork, and persistence. After weeks of struggle, of pulling heavy sleds, of battling storms and navigating treacherous ice, the moment finally came. The GPS showed the numbers we had been dreaming of, 90 degrees north. We had arrived. We were standing at the geographic North Pole, the very top of the world. There is no land here, only a thick, shifting sheet of ice floating over the deep Arctic Ocean. There is no signpost, no flag waiting for you. It is just a point on a map, a coordinate in the middle of a vast frozen wilderness. But for us, it was everything. The feeling was overwhelming. It was a mix of pure joy, relief, and exhaustion. We had done it. We had pushed our bodies and minds to the absolute limit, and we had succeeded. We stood there, a small group of people, on a piece of ice that was drifting slowly with the ocean currents. All directions from this point were south. We hugged each other and cheered, our voices sounding small in the immense silence of the Arctic. We planted a flag to mark our achievement, a small splash of color in the endless white. We spent some time at the pole, taking it all in. We made a call on the satellite phone to our families to share the incredible news. Looking around, I reflected on the journey. It was about more than just reaching a destination. It was about the challenges we had overcome together as a team. It was about the incredible, harsh beauty of the landscape we had traveled through. It was about the amazing animals we had seen, the true survivors of this world. The journey had tested us in every way possible, and it had made us stronger. Leaving the North Pole was bittersweet. The adventure was a success, but a part of me did not want to leave this wild place. The journey back would be by pickup, not on foot, but the memories of the trek would stay with me forever. The Arctic teaches you humility. It shows you the power of nature and your own small place within it. It teaches you the importance of preparation, teamwork, and a relentless spirit. Standing at the top of the world is an incredible feeling, a reminder that with courage and determination, you can achieve even the most difficult goals. Never give up on your adventures.